Jubaland wameingia Mandera. They have occupied more than half of the town. Waliua watu 5. 7 people have been injured, and many people have been displaced, including schools. The leadership of Mandera was there.
His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, who is also the Commander-in-Chief of all the armed forces. Mandera cannot be turned into a battleground for Somalia. We have no interest in Somalia. The only interest we have in Somalia is
Mandera County, though a forgotten lad in the Kenyan politics, now has become a scent and a bone of contention that threatens the Kenyan sovereignty under the rule of President William Samoei Ruto. But the question many of you might ask, what is Ruto's play in the Mandera takeover by Somalian Jubaland forces? The second question lies on the back of the former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. Why is Gachagua so interested in Mandera County matters? And the last question is, why did Gachagua avail himself to the United States as a confidential informant or CI in the Mandera Jubaland forces takeover? To begin with, on January 3rd, 2025, Mandera South Police Commander Julius Jeru revealed that 5 chiefs from Mandera County were on their way from Wagdad to Elwak town in Mandera were abducted by Somalian terror group, the Al-Shabaab, a story that shocked many Kenyans. But above all, left us as Kenyans with many questions than answers. Where were the 5 chiefs coming from, and how did the Al-Shabaab know the routes and the vehicle they were using? A question that till date, the Kenyan security forces have never provided an answer to. Allow me to remind you that the Al-Shabaab does not, most of the time, take Kenyan prisoners, or they does not kidnap Kenyan prisoners. Most of the time, they lay traps using IEDs and kill most of the Kenyan forces operating in the areas of Mandera, Wajir, Garissa, and the rest of the parts of the northeastern part of Kenya. But this time, they made an exception to abduct 5 Kenyan chiefs. What was the end game?
On the question of our chiefs who are abducted, again, negotiations are ongoing. The good news is that the contact is there. There are interlocutors that are working on it, and we believe that eventually the situation will be sorted. I do not wish to say more than that because of the security situation, and it's important to keep it as it is, because what is primary for the Republic of Kenya is the safety of our chiefs across the...
Remember, the 5 chiefs were abducted on 3rd of February 2025. And one day later, President William Ruto kick-started his northeastern tour. And the tour began in Mandera County. To begin with, second on the Mandera takeover plan, a day after the 5 chiefs were abducted in Mandera, the Kenyan President William Ruto on 4th of February 2025 kicked off his northeastern Kenya tour in Mandera County, where he spent the night, an exception he made. For the first time, a president allowed himself to become vulnerable to sleep in Mandera County, a town where it is invested with so many people who are affiliated with the terror group, the Al-Shabaab, where he spent the night, and on the following day, he promised to bring back the 5 chiefs home no matter what it took. Remember, it is something that coincided, the tour of the president coincided with the abduction of the 5 chiefs. And when the president was in Mandera, his campaign lied on the back of returning or securing the release of the 5 chiefs from the Al-Shabaab.
Na kwa sababu hawa magaidi tumewalemea jana, kwa sababu ya kutaka kulete hali ya hofu sehemu hii, ati walienda wakashika machifu wetu. I want to promise the people of Mandera, hawa machifu lazima warudi nyumbani, na hawa wakora na wagaidi na wahuni tutabambana na wao. Nimekuja na Deputy Inspector General wa polisi yuko hapa, Bwana Masengeli. We have significantly downgraded the ability of the Al-Shabaab to unleash violence to the people of northern Kenya, and we will not stop at anything until we make sure northern Kenya is safe like any other part of the Republic of Kenya. Munajua hawa wajinga walikuwa wanafikiria ya kwamba wakifanya hiyo maneno walifanya jana, ati ndio nisikuje hapa. Wako ni wajinga kabisa, ni wazimu. Mimi sio ati nimekuja Mandera, nimekuja na Mandera na mimi nalala Mandera. Na ikizidi naweza kulala tena, kwa sababu hapa ni Kenya. And I must make it absolutely clear that every part of Kenya is important, and we are not going to cede an inch of our country to criminals and those who want to unleash mayhem in our republic. We will go after them, we will deal with them, and we will eliminate them. Tumekubaliana jameni? Watu wa Mandera tumekubaliana?
Immediate effect commence to identify them, to document them, and to expose all the members, the financiers, and sympathizers of Al-Shabaab within the
Now, among those that welcomed Ruto in Mandera is the current Cabinet Secretary of Health, ADEN Duale, who has been accused of staging the alleged 5 Mandera chiefs' abduction. Back to President Ruto's Mandera tour. While on the tour, the president made a declaration that caught the attention of the whole country at large, and not only the country, Kenya, but also the international investigative bodies that have interest in the country. That included the American Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA, the British or the United Kingdom, MI6, and Israel's Mossad, just naming a few. The president declared that the mandatory ID requirements of vetting for immigrants from Somalia to Kenya was no longer needed, a move that excited many within the Somalian immigrants community in Kenya, but which left Kenya as a country vulnerable to terror attacks from the Al-Shabaab. Another question that we asked ourselves: why did President Ruto choose to spend the night in Mandera and the chaos of terror even amid the chaos of terror attacks and the abduction of the 5 chiefs? You know, the president spending a night there, that meant he had put his security at risk, we all knowing that the president should be protected at all costs. A question that was recently answered by the former DP Rigathi Gachagua in the dossier that he exposed while in America, offering American intelligence intel on a night meeting that was held between the Kenyan President William Ruto and 3 Al-Shabaab leaders. So the question is, what was Ruto's business with the Al-Shabaab?
So you need to know, the Americans want to know why you are working with Al-Shabaab. Why, when you are in Mandera, you met 3 leaders of the Al-Shabaab militia at night to discuss business with them. They want to know why. They also want to know why you have removed the requirement for vetting of non-Kenyans before they are given IDs. the Americans are concerned that suspected terrorists will be registered as Kenyans and they will find their way to America and the rest of the world.
Fast forward to April 12th, 2025. Over 2 months later since the abduction of the 5 chiefs, news hit headlines that the 5 chiefs had finally been released from Al-Shabaab custody. Their names are Mohammed Adawa, Mohammed Hassan, Abdi Hassan, Mohammed Nur Hache, and the assistant chief Ibrahim Gabu.
We have very good news that our chiefs that were abducted in Mandera have been released, and they are now in the hands of Kenyan officials, and they will be arriving home anytime soon. This is very good news.
But to our surprise, the 5 chiefs since their release have not been allowed to share their alleged story and the 2 months the alleged story on the 2 months they were in Al-Shabaab custody with any media stations in the country. Though most media houses have been seeking them to tell their story, most of their requests have been denied. I mean, all of their requests have been turned down. They were only allowed to speak after their release under strict supervision of police officers, which begs the question, what is the police hiding, or what were the police hiding in these men's stories? Now, one thing that has become clear now, since the chief's abduction and President William Ruto's tour in Mandera, this was all a plot for a bigger game, which has now become crystal clear as recently the Somalian Jubaland forces have currently taken over 60% of Mandera County and have even gone ahead to establish military bases and training camps in Mandera. Yet, a lot of calls have been made to the president to sanction an operation in Mandera. Although cries have been made by the area governor and opposition leader Rigathi Gachagua, where they have revealed that over 10 civilians have currently been killed by the Jubaland forces, the president and the Interior and Defense Cabinet secretaries have remained adamant in sanctioning a military operation to kick out Jubaland forces out of Mandera County. Now allow me to diverge into the matter with an open mind. Rigathi Gachagua went ahead to call upon the American intelligence to start investigating the relationship between the Kenyan president, William Ruto, and the Al-Shabaab militants, which we all saw as a cry from a man that is dying politically. Or let me say, most of President William Ruto's friends and allies in the political realm called it a cry of the kicks of a dying horse. But now, we all see the truth that Rigathi Gachagua alleged while he was in the United States. But the question is, why is the United States so much interested in Mandera County, and more so on the Al-Shabaab operation and the Jubaland forces operations in Mandera County? The moment that President William Ruto declared that the requirement for ID vettings for immigrants in Mandera and other counties within the borders of Somalia, along the borders of Somalia, the American intelligence started doing investigations. Also the Mossad, the same thing, and the MI6 of British. The reason they are doing this is because they know once somebody accesses Kenya, which in Eastern Central Africa is the base of operation for most of the American forces here, and more so the Western powers, it revealed that somebody might get access to Kenya, acquire Kenyan citizenship, and go ahead to acquire a visa to travel to the United States, where they could stage a terror attack in the United States. And that is why the Americans are so much interested in this story. To remind you, the Al-Shabaab is also linked to Al-Qaeda. And that is why the Americans cannot let these ones slide. Though the president has remained undermined, he is under pressure to sanction a military operation in Mandera to kick out the foreign forces that are establishing themselves there. But let me ask a question. President William Ruto is risking the life of the people of the Republic of Kenya, and more so the people of Mandera. For what? So that he can bring in voters from Somalia who will vote him in the year 2027? Remember, we have named ADEN Duale in this matter. I dare say, as it has been alleged before, the man is the mastermind behind all the chaos that is happening there. But severally, he has denied that. But you know what? Our tongues cannot remain quiet, yet our brothers and sisters who are currently residing in those parts of the country are under a threat. What is your take in regards to this matter? Leave a comment on the comment section. See you in our next video. Don't you forget to subscribe. This is the Kenyan Daily Report.